In a small town just outside of Chicago, there was a quaint two-story house at the end of a quiet street. It wasn't much to look at on the outside, but the warm glow of the windows at dusk told a different story. It was the kind of home where love and memories had been built over years of hard work, laughter, and sorrow. This was where I, Grace Miller, had lived with my husband Tom and our two children, Emma and Jack. Life had always been simple but fulfilling, until the day everything changed. It was a chilly autumn evening when the phone rang. I was preparing dinner, chopping vegetables for a stew, when I heard it. My heart skipped a beat as I saw the caller ID. It was Tom's work number. He rarely called at this time. I quickly wiped my hands on my apron and answered. "Grace, something's happened." Tom's voice sounded strained, his words coming out in a rush. "I don't know how to say this, but I've been laid off. My position is being cut." The words felt like a slap to the face. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the knife still in my hand. I had to sit down, my mind racing as I tried to process what he had just told me. Tom had worked at the same company for over 15 years. We had built our life around his job, his stability, and now it was all gone. "I'm so sorry, Grace. I'll figure something out," he continued, his voice full of regret. I couldn't bring myself to say much. I hung up the phone, staring blankly at the counter. The smell of the stew, once comforting, now felt suffocating. How were we going to manage? The bills, the mortgage, everything depended on Tom's income. It was a cruel blow, one that came without warning. Days turned into weeks, and the strain on our family grew. Tom tried to find another job, but the market was tight. I watched as he grew more frustrated with each rejection. Emma, our eldest daughter, noticed the tension in the house. She was just 12, but she was bright and perceptive. Jack, our 7-year-old, was more oblivious, happy to play with his toys, unaware of the quiet battles raging in our home. One night, after a particularly difficult conversation with Tom, I decided to take a walk. I needed to clear my mind. The streetlights cast long shadows on the sidewalk as I made my way through the neighborhood. I found myself at the old park where Tom and I had spent many evenings before we had kids. It was empty now, quiet, just the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. I sat down on one of the benches, pulling my coat tighter around me, and let the cool air calm my nerves. As I sat there, lost in thought, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Tom. "Grace, I need to tell you something. It's important. Can you come home?" I felt a pit form in my stomach. What now? I stood up quickly, my mind racing. Had something happened to the kids? Was Tom okay? I rushed home, my thoughts spinning with possibilities. When I walked through the door, I saw Tom sitting at the kitchen table, his face pale. "Grace, I've done something," he began, his voice shaking. "I made a deal with someone. A bad deal." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What kind of deal?" I asked, already fearing the worst. I borrowed money from a loan shark, Grace. They're threatening us. I didn't know what else to do, but now they want more than I can give. I'm so sorry. I didn't want this to happen." The room seemed to spin around me. Tom had always been the steady one, the one who handled everything with a calm, logical mind. But now, this was a side of him I had never seen before. A part of me wanted to scream, to lash out at him for his recklessness, but I couldn't. I had to think. Our family's future was at risk. "Who is this person, Tom?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't know much. He's a man named Frank. He's been sending threatening messages. I'm scared, Grace. I don't know what to do." I wanted to break down, to give in to the overwhelming fear and frustration, but I couldn't. I had to be strong for our children. I had to fix this, no matter what it took. The next few days were a blur. I researched everything I could about Frank, the loan shark, and his operations. The more I learned, the more desperate I became. Frank was connected to a network of dangerous individuals, people who had no hesitation in using violence to get what they wanted. And now they had their sights set on our family. I couldn't just sit back and wait for things to escalate. I had to act. The first step was to confront Tom. I needed to know everything, all the details of what had happened. Tom, you have to tell me exactly what happened, I said one night after the kids had gone to bed. How much do we owe them? Tom looked down at the table, his hands trembling. I borrowed $20,000, Grace. It seemed like a small amount at the time, but now they want $50,000. They've been calling every day. The numbers didn't make sense. How could we possibly come up with that kind of money? I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of it all. But I couldn't give up. I couldn't let my family be torn apart because of Tom's mistake. We need to come up with a plan, I said, my voice resolute. I'll work extra hours. I'll do whatever it takes. But we'll get through this. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I juggled 2 jobs while trying to keep the household running. Tom, consumed by guilt, stayed at home, not knowing how to fix things. I could see the strain in his eyes, the weight of his actions weighing him down. But I couldn't let him sink into despair. We had to keep fighting, for the sake of our children, for the sake of our family. One night, as I was working late, I received another call from Tom. Grace, it's bad, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Frank's here. He's demanding the money tonight. I felt a surge of panic. What do we do? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't know. He says if we don't pay, they'll come for Emma and Jack. He wants us to come up with the money by midnight. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I had to save them, save my children. There was no time to waste. I grabbed my coat, and without a word, I ran out the door. As I rushed to the address Tom had given me, my mind was consumed with fear. I had no idea what I would find when I arrived. I didn't know how I was going to handle Frank, but I knew I had to try. When I arrived, I saw Frank standing outside a rundown building on the edge of town. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had a cold, calculating look in his eyes. As soon as he saw me, he stepped forward, blocking my path. You must be Grace, he said, his voice low and menacing. Your husband has been wasting my time. You have until midnight. Bring me the money, or your children will pay the price. I stood my ground, trying to summon every ounce of courage within me. I don't have the money, Frank, but you won't hurt my family, not as long as I'm alive. Frank's eyes narrowed, and for a moment I thought he might strike me. But instead, he stepped back. You're a brave woman, Grace. I'll give you a little more time, but don't think for a second that I'm going to forget this. With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I stood there, my heart racing, unsure of what to do next. As I walked back to my car, I made a vow to myself. No matter how hard it got, no matter what it took, I would do whatever it took to protect my family, and I would make sure that Tom's mistake didn't destroy everything we had worked for. The journey ahead was long, and the obstacles were many. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let fear control me. We would fight this battle together,